Have you ever been the kind of man a woman couldn't see, couldn't value, and yet she still can't forget you? She tells herself she's fine, but deep down, there's a fear she can't shake. The kind of fear that only hits after she's hurt a good man like you. Today, you're going to see exactly what women fear most, and why that fear gives you a quiet kind of power. Have you ever wondered why a woman who hurt you suddenly goes quiet, acts distant, or pretends nothing happened, while something in her eyes tells a truth she refuses to say? It's because every woman who has ever hurt a genuinely good man carries a fear she cannot escape. Not immediately, not loudly, not in a way that the world can see, but internally, silently, and relentlessly. A fear that grows stronger over time, a fear that wraps itself around her decisions, her relationships, her self-image, and her future. And that fear begins the moment she realizes she wounded a man who would have given her the kind of love she will spend years trying to find again. Men don't see this fear because women are masters at hiding emotional consequences. But it is there. It always shows up eventually, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. But it comes. When a woman hurts a good man, she expects chaos from him. She expects anger, emotional outbursts, desperate messages, and broken reactions. She expects him to crumble so she can justify the way she treated him. But when he doesn't break, when he doesn't chase, when he simply steps back with calm dignity, it terrifies her. Not because she wants him back in that moment, but because she suddenly realizes she misjudged him. She misread his value. She confused kindness with weakness, loyalty with dependency, affection with need. She thought she understood his emotional strength, but she only understood the surface of his heart. And it frightens her when she realizes the depth she overlooked. She tells people she's fine, she posts like she's happy, she laughs, she goes out, she dates, she moves, she distracts herself. But the fear settles in the quiet moments she can't outrun. It appears in the questions she asks herself late at night, the ones she never speaks aloud because the answers are too painful. Did she ruin something she will never find again? Did she damage a relationship that could have changed her life? Did she hurt a man who would have loved her in ways no one else ever will? And the worst question of all, what if he becomes the man another woman will appreciate more deeply than she ever did? That thought eats at her. Because a good man doesn't just heal, he evolves. He gets sharper, stronger, more focused, more selective. And she knows that the man she hurt is no longer the same man she left behind. That realization leaves a mark on her. It makes her look at herself differently. It forces her to confront the truth that she wasn't ready for the man she asked the universe for. She wasn't mature enough for the love she demanded. She wasn't emotionally stable enough to receive the commitment she claimed she wanted. So she hurt him, not because he wasn't enough, but because he was more than she knew how to handle. That is a truth women rarely admit, even to themselves. A good man's absence is louder than his presence. When he is gone, she feels it everywhere. She feels it in conversations that no longer feel meaningful. She feels it in the eyes of new men who don't look at her the same way. She feels it in the energy of relationships that lack depth, and she feels it when she sees him improving, growing, becoming the version of himself he was always capable of becoming, the version she didn't stay long enough to meet. And the fear that haunts her most is simple, the fear that she lost the one man who would have never given up on her, the one man who meant his words, the one man whose loyalty was real. She fears that she didn't just lose a relationship, she lost her chance at something irreplaceable, and deep down, she knows she'll never forget him for it. When a woman hurts a good man, she expects chaos from him. She expects anger, emotional outbursts, desperate messages, and broken reactions. She expects him to crumble so she can justify the way she treated him. But when he doesn't break, when he doesn't chase, when he simply steps back with calm dignity, it terrifies her. Not because she wants him back in that moment, but because she suddenly realizes she misjudged him. She misread his value. She confused kindness with weakness, loyalty with dependency, affection with need. She thought she understood his emotional strength, but she only understood the surface of his heart. And it frightens her when she realizes the depth she overlooked. There comes a moment when a woman who has hurt a good man begins to feel the weight of what she has done, not because he reminds her, but because the silence he leaves behind forces her to confront truths she avoided. She realizes his absence isn't punishment. It's reflection that grows louder every single day. She pretends not to feel its echo. She starts noticing how different her world feels without the grounding presence he once provided, and it unsettles her more than she lets on. His steadiness used to anchor her, even when she didn't acknowledge it. Now the space where he once stood becomes a mirror, showing her how easily she overlooked the very stability she secretly depended on, far more than expected. As time passes, she begins replaying conversations she dismissed, gestures she brushed aside, and moments she minimized because she assumed he would always be there. This realization frightens her because she now understands his presence was never guaranteed. His loyalty was a choice, not an obligation, and recognizing that forces her to confront the uncomfortable truth that she took his devotion for granted. She may pretend she's thriving, telling friends she's happier now, or acting as if losing him was simply part of life, but these claims are armor, not truth. Inside, she feels an emptiness she didn't expect. She fears she misjudged a man who would have given her the kind of genuine love she now realizes is painfully rare, and she regrets it deeply. What scares her even more is noticing how differently she is treated by other men. They may show interest, but not depth. They may offer excitement, but not commitment. They may speak sweetly, but not sincerely. And in every interaction, she compares them to the man she hurt, discovering pieces of him she misses. This comparison becomes a quiet fear she can't admit. She begins to realize that good men aren't common, and the one she hurt might have been the rarest of all. This realization doesn't arrive dramatically. It creeps in slowly during moments she least expects. When she sees a couple communicating deeply, when she hears about loyalty, when she witnesses genuine care, she remembers him, and fear whispers that she let go of something. Even when she tries to move forward, her mind plays tricks on her. She wonders what he's doing, who he's becoming, and whether he still thinks of her or has already outgrown the memory of what they shared. The uncertainty terrifies her because she knows good men evolve quickly, and the man she hurt might now be a version she no longer deserves. Her fear grows strongest when she sees him becoming happier without her. A good man's glow after healing is unmistakable, and witnessing it makes her confront the truth she denied. She realizes she did not break him, she revealed him, and that revelation terrifies her because it proves he never needed her to thrive, while she now wonders whether she needed him. She fears that the man she once dismissed is now the man other women admire. She fears his strength will attract someone who sees what she ignored. She fears his evolution will highlight her stagnation. And she fears that if she ever tried to return, she'd face a version of him who no longer offers unconditional access to his heart in this lifetime. And beneath all these fears lies one deeper than the rest, the fear that he has truly moved on, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in peace. Because peace is final. Peace means closure. Peace means he learned, grew, healed, and became a man she can no longer reach. And that realization becomes the consequence she never expected to face at all today. There is a moment in every woman's life when she realizes that the man she hurt is no longer emotionally reachable, and that moment hits her harder than she ever imagined. It doesn't happen in public, and it doesn't happen during arguments or dramatic endings. It happens quietly, often when she least expects it. Maybe when she sees him smiling in a picture, or when someone mentions his name casually, or when she notices she hasn't heard from him in far longer than she expected. That's when fear begins to bloom, because she realizes she is no longer part of his world, and the world he's creating without her seems brighter and stronger than she ever anticipated. She begins to sense that the connection she once felt entitled to has faded, not because he stopped caring overnight, but because he grew wiser. She notices the shift in his energy, even from a distance. He no longer reacts. He no longer reaches out. He no longer carries the emotional weight she once placed on him. And this change unsettles her because she expected him to remain the same man she hurt, broken, longing, waiting. Instead, what she sees is a man rebuilding himself, and that sight is both inspiring and deeply threatening to her sense of security. Women feel this fear intensely because they understand something most men overlook. Good men evolve into great men after heartbreak, and great men are far harder to access, far harder to influence, and far harder to find again. She realizes the man she once knew is gone, replaced by a version shaped by pain, growth, and clarity. She sees a man who learned boundaries, who now values his worth, who no longer tolerates emotional chaos disguised as passion. And she knows she played a part in shaping that transformation, even if she never admits it. This realization makes her reflect on the moments she dismissed as insignificant, the times he tried to communicate honestly, the moments he was patient with her emotions, the nights he reassured her, the affections he offered without being asked, the loyalty he maintained even when she doubted it. These memories start resurfacing like fragments from a life she didn't appreciate enough. And the more she remembers, the more she fears that she lost something permanent. The fear becomes sharpest when she sees the way he carries himself now. There's a new calmness, a new confidence, a new decisiveness. He speaks differently, moves differently, chooses differently. And this difference triggers an uncomfortable truth she can't ignore. She was part of his old chapter, but someone else might be part of his new one. She imagines another woman experiencing the emotional depth she once received. She imagines another woman being held the way she was held. She imagines another woman getting the version of him she always wanted, but never nurtured. And that thought, it cuts deeply. She tries to rationalize it. She tells herself he wasn't perfect. She tells herself things wouldn't have worked. She tells herself she made the right choice. But her heart argues back with every memory of his sincerity. Logic loses every time to the emotional reality she feels now, because regret doesn't listen to logic. It listens to truth. And the truth is simple. She hurt a man who loved her more genuinely than anyone else ever has. And now she fears that man has become unreachable. She wonders if he still cares. She wonders if he still thinks of her. She wonders if there is still a chance, even a small one, that life will bring them back together. But beneath all of these thoughts lies a deeper fear she tries to bury. The fear that he has already closed the door. Because when a good man closes a door, he doesn't slam it. He doesn't lock it out of anger. He simply outgrows the room behind it, and she knows he may have already stepped into a future where she no longer exists. There comes a point where the fear inside a woman who hurt a good man stops being a whisper and becomes something she can physically feel. It's no longer just a thought drifting through her mind. It becomes a pressure in her chest, a tightening in her stomach, a sensation that something she once believed she could control has slipped completely out of her hands. She begins to understand that time isn't healing the situation the way she hoped. Time is actually working against her, because the longer a good man heals, the less of his heart remains available for her to reach. And deep down, she knows that what she lost isn't waiting for her anymore. It's evolving without her. She starts to notice the kind of life he's building. Maybe not directly, but through subtle signals. His posture, his confidence, the way he seems more focused, more intentional, more at peace. She sees glimpses of this transformation and realizes something she never fully grasped before. A good man who has been hurt becomes a man who no longer tolerates half-hearted effort. He becomes selective. He becomes disciplined. He becomes protective of his energy. And that version of him is intimidating, because she realizes she no longer knows how to approach him. What frightens her most is seeing him step into the emotional strength she once doubted he had. He's not angry. He's not clinging. He's not trying to prove anything. He's simply becoming the man he was always capable of being. And she sees that this new version of him doesn't revolve around her. The world she imagined she had influence over has shifted, and she is no longer the gravitational center of his emotional universe. That change forces her to confront the truth she once avoided. She never expected him to outgrow the pain. She assumed she could return whenever she felt ready, that he would remain emotionally accessible, that the door would stay slightly open. But now she senses that the door is closing, not with anger, but with maturity, not with resentment, but with clarity. And clarity is what scares her, because it means he finally sees her for who she was, not who she pretended to be. This fear deepens when she compares her past interactions with him to the connections she tries to build now. She notices how empty certain conversations feel. She notices how quickly new people become shallow. She notices how rare it is to find someone patient, someone steady, someone who genuinely listens. And in those moments, she realizes that she underestimated the value of the emotional presence he once gave her without asking for anything in return. She begins replaying memories, things he said, things he did, the subtle ways he showed he cared. These memories aren't nostalgic, they're haunting. Because she knows she didn't just lose someone, she lost the version of herself that existed when he believed in her. And she fears that no matter who she becomes in the future, she may never again be seen with the same softness, the same depth, the same sincerity he once offered her so freely. The hardest part for her is accepting that another woman might receive the version of him she always hoped to experience, the version that learned from the pain she caused, the version that is now wiser, stronger, more emotionally grounded. She imagines another woman being loved with the maturity he gained through heartbreak, and that thought alone can stop her breath, because she knows that the love she rejected will become the love someone else cherishes. And beneath all these fears lies the truth she tries desperately to avoid. A good man doesn't come back the same. If he ever comes back at all, he returns with boundaries, with standards, with a clarity that changes everything. And she fears that the man she once hurt is no longer hers to understand, influence, or reach, because he finally became the man she wasn't ready for, and now she's the one left behind. There is a final fear a woman carries after hurting a good man, and it is the fear she hides most deeply, even from herself. It's the fear that the story between you and her is no longer unfinished, no longer paused, no longer waiting for closure, but truly over. And not because you walked away in anger, but because you transformed into a man who no longer needs what she once meant to you. That kind of ending shakes her to the core, because she always believed she would have more time, more chances, more emotional influence, more access. But time changes men like you in ways she never prepared for. She begins to understand that you didn't grow colder, you grew wiser. You didn't lose your capacity for love, you simply reserved it for someone who deserves it. And she sees that the pain she caused didn't destroy you, it refined you. That realization leaves her with a complicated mix of regret and admiration. She admires the strength you gained, but she regrets that she had to lose you to see it. And that regret becomes a weight she carries quietly, because she knows there is nothing she can say that will undo the damage of her choices. She fears that if she reached out now, you would no longer respond with the softness you once had. She fears you would listen politely, but not emotionally. She fears that you would hear her words, but not feel them. And she fears that your heart, which once opened freely, now has a lock she no longer has the key to. This terrifies her because she once believed she would always have some place in your life. Now she realizes she may not even have a place in your memories. What unsettles her most is watching you reclaim parts of your life she never fully appreciated. Your focus, your ambition, your confidence, your direction. She realizes that she was not the catalyst for your success. She was simply present during a phase of your life when you hadn't yet realized how powerful you could become. Now you stand stronger, and she knows that the strength you carry is not something she helped create, but something you found in spite of her. This forces her to confront the deepest truth of all. Losing a good man isn't just losing a person. It's losing a version of herself that felt seen, valued, and understood. She fears she will never feel that again, not because other men won't want her, but because she now recognizes that affection without depth feels empty. Attention without stability feels shallow, and desire without emotional safety feels meaningless. You offered her something she did not know how to receive, and now she fears she may never encounter it again at the same level. She imagines the life you are building, a life where someone else might walk beside you. She imagines the woman who will benefit from the lessons you learned, the patience you strengthened, the emotional wisdom you developed. She imagines another woman being chosen by the version of you she always hoped you would become. And that thought breaks something inside her, because she realizes that your evolution is the very proof that you were never the problem. Her final fear is not that she lost you. It's that she taught you how to live without her, and now you're doing it better than she ever expected. She fears that your future will be full of joy she no longer contributes to. She fears that your heart will love someone else with the gentleness she once resisted. She fears that your life will rise while hers remains tied to decisions she can't undo. And in the end, she knows this truth with painful clarity. She didn't just hurt a good man, she lost him forever. And the man you became after the pain is the man she will spend years remembering, but never again have the privilege to call hers.